But first, joining me now is former Deputy Assistant Attorney General and UC Berkeley Law Professor John Yoo. John, great to see you. Thanks for being here. By the way, that Secretary of State is not a lawyer, and she made this monumental decision about the ballot that may go to the Supreme Court based on her alone. It wasn't even processed through a judicial system. What happened to due process?
Unfortunately, that seems all too apparent from the decision she issued, David. And by the way, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Her decision is, it's very short and basically just piggybacks on the Colorado Supreme Court. That's where all the action will be. The Colorado Supreme Court decision is going to be pending at the Supreme Court right now. I expect the justices will decide to review the case. And the Maine case shows you why the Supreme Court should, because we can't have 50 different standards of who's allowed to be on the ballot, who's not allowed to be on the ballot. We can't have 50 different interpretations of the 14th Amendment and who's disqualified from running for president. That's actually why the founders put a Supreme Court in our Constitution in the first place, was to make sure there was uniform interpretation of things like the disqualification clause.
Well, the cornerstone of our Constitution is due process. That is, some Secretary of State who isn't even a lawyer can point to somebody and say, you're an insurrectionist, or point to somebody else and say, you're a murderer, before there's been a charge, before there's been a conviction. And that's what's happening with their finger pointing at Donald Trump. He has not been charged or convicted with being an insurrectionist, and yet they're using that charge against him to pull him off the ballot. That is not due process.
Yeah, it's an excellent point, David. In fact, it's the opposite. If you remember, the House impeached Donald Trump a second time and threw in incitement to insurrection as one of the charges, and the Senate acquitted Donald Trump. And then second, there is a special counsel in Washington, D.C., Jack Smith, who has brought federal charges against Donald Trump for the events surrounding January 6th, and he declined. He refused to bring an insurrection charge. None of the January 6th rioters have been charged with insurrection. So as you say, David, how can a Secretary of State in Maine or Secretary of State in Oregon or California all hold a trial for Donald Trump being an insurrectionist when the actual organs of the federal government haven't done it, and it's up to them to decide whether he's committed insurrection or not.
John, we only have 30 seconds, but I want to switch quickly to the impeachment inquiry about for Joe Biden, which is going to continue when Congress comes back. Republicans are now adding a new angle to it, saying that when Hunter Biden defied the subpoena, remember he had a show in front of Congress saying, I'm here, but I'm not going to go in and fulfill the order of the subpoena. It turns out, as according to the press secretary in the White House, that Joe Biden knew what he was going to say. Is that grounds for impeachment, as Republicans are now suggesting?
Well, so anyone who deserves a lump of coal in their stocking, it was Hunter Biden from his dad, because Hunter Biden did open the door for the House to expand their inquiry. Because what if Hunter Biden told his dad, hey, I'm going to defy a valid, legitimate subpoena from Congress? And what if he said, Dad, promise not to prosecute me. Tell the Justice Department to leave me alone. And President Biden said, sure. Well, that would be obstruction.
Wow, which is grounds for impeachment. John Yoo, thank you very much for being here. John, Happy New Year to you and your family. Appreciate it.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.